Welcome to Into the Inbox, presented by your friendly email expert, Nick Crawford. We'll review a marketing email looking at subject line, layout, and content, finding what's good, okay, and not so brilliant, helping us improve our own emails. So let's dive into the inbox.
Hello and welcome. So today we're going to be taking a look at red letter days and a send that has a subject line of enjoy £60 off today only. So really short, sharp, grabs the attention, and then the pre-header very simply ends tonight. So a real sense of urgency, great way of creating immediate action. It was received at 7 o'clock in the morning, so there's plenty of time for that email to be seen across the day. The only consideration when you're doing one-day offers is you don't control when somebody sees the email, so something to take into account. Having a look at the layout in a desktop mode, we've got a nice clear logo, our secondary menus, and then this really big, prominent hero image, clearly showing that there's offers available, and great to see that we've got a call to action button nicely placed to be able to gain that immediate click for anyone that wants it. We've got this sub banner that just confirms that we've got one day only, a little bit of intro text, and then a really prominent code to use. And then the rest of the email are examples of the types of experiences that are available in this 2-column layout. And then finally, just getting to a end call to action button. Again, really sensible to be able to get that click for anyone that's scrolled through. And then our footer in terms of some key navigation links, and then just a little bit of T's and C's, which I think are well placed in this email to be able to just confirm that the offer is only available for that day. In mobile view, the first thing we can see is the use of this hamburger menu, a great way of being able to save real estate in this condensed view, but still allowing the reader to be able to access those secondary menus should they want to. The hero image still clearly readable in this smaller mobile view, and then we can see that the example experiences have moved from that 2-column to single-column approach. Now, the really eagle-eyed amongst you will see that actually these example experiences have changed from when we've just been looking at the desktop, which shows that these are being dynamically driven. Really interesting technical function here. That might be based on percentage discount or most popular, but showing that that content will refresh and update each time somebody looks at their email. So it creates more of an evergreen approach to the content. What I would say in mobile view is that actually the number of experiences then in this single column view mean that we've got a very long email. There's lots of scrolls to be had, and therefore considering hiding a few of those to make it more succinct might actually generate less choice and therefore more likelihood of a click onto one of those items. Considering the content, the expectation that's been set from the subject line is that I've got £60 off to enjoy. But actually, as soon as I open that email, I'm presented with a lot of choices that I immediately need to scan and understand. So I've got 6 boxes here. The first thing I'm going to probably notice is that I've got £10 off. That jars a bit with the £60 off. I'll spot the £60, but then I've got to work out what's in between. There's a psychological principle called the paradox of choice, which effectively says the more choice somebody has, the more difficult they find to actually make that choice. There's some different ways that this could have been presented more effectively. So maybe having a sliding scale that shows that I've got from £10 off to £60 off, or at least having fewer choices. So maybe 3 just showing the scale that I've got and starting with that £60 and maybe working down so that the subject line and the content marry up with each other. When I then put together those 6 boxes together with my secondary menu in this desktop view, and then all of the choices that I've got around the experiences themselves, actually there's a lot that I need to process and absorb here, potentially overwhelming and therefore reducing the likelihood of somebody clicking through and actually starting to explore further. In dark mode, this email works pretty well. We can see that the logo is on a transparent background, so the red works fine against the now dark black background. The one day only copy has lightened. It's a lighter grey against a dark yellow. That contrast is probably a little light to be easily readable. And the one thing that definitely doesn't work is the recommended for you image strip, because now that we haven't got the white background behind it, you can really see that that stands out as an image floating in its own black space. Other than that, everything is fine. The experience examples, because they all sit on their own white background, work fine. The one other thing to mention, again, for the really eagle-eyed amongst you, is that in this Android view, the hamburger menu isn't supported, and therefore we get to see that secondary menu again, but the white copy against black background works fine. Our 3 considerations then from this Red Letter Days email. Firstly, the subject line. An offer-driven, deadline-based subject line will absolutely grab the attention and create the open. But make sure that the expectations being set is met by what I see when I open. In this case, £60 expectation. First thing I might see is that £10 version, and therefore I'm immediately disengaging because I think I've been duped. Secondly, think about how many choices you're giving your reader. Too many choices, they'll become overwhelmed, and the possibility of actually not taking any action rather than some action. And finally, in mobile view, think about how long that email becomes when those double columns become single columns. Again, too much scroll becomes a lot of effort for the reader, less likelihood of actually taking some consideration, some click, and walking away. Thanks for joining me. I've been Nick Crawford, and I'll see you again next week as we go into the inbox.